Hello everybody, my name is Sam and welcome to part 2 of How to Unity Basics, and we're going to be going over another part of this Canon minigame tutorial. So today we're going to be working with adding score and a little bit of UI to this game. Alright, so let's get started right away here. So go ahead and go to scripts and create a new C# script, and we can just call this score manager. And this is going to keep track of our scores. So go ahead and open that up in Visual Studio. And once you have that open, go ahead and create a new public static int, and let's go ahead and call it score. Now you may notice that there's this new word here called static. So a static variable is a variable that can be referenced without having an instance of it. So basically what that's saying is there's only one score variable throughout the entire project. No matter how many score manager scripts I apply to objects, there is only one score variable. Alright, so if I got a reference to this from my Canon script and I said score plus equals 1, then this score would also just be 1 as well, no matter where it was in the scene. So this is really useful for keeping track of things like score, currency, and all sorts of stuff like that. So now that we have that, we can also come down here, and if we want, the way we'll keep track of score is by seeing how many barrels are actually knocked off. And to do that, we need to have a way of seeing when they've hit the floor. So we can just create a public void on trigger enter. And this is a Unity specific method, so it needs to look exactly like this, and it'll fill it in with this thing. This is collider and other. So what this is saying is it's getting a variable of type collider and it's calling it other. And so we can just say when this happens, we can say score is plus equal to 1. And that's exactly like saying score is equal to score plus 1. But it's just using compound assignment, so it's just smaller and faster. And then the last thing we can do is we can say debug.log, and we can say score, just to make sure that this is working right. Awesome. So if we go back into Unity, and we apply this script to our barrels, if we go score manager, and we drag it onto our barrel, and we hit override apply all, we will see that working as soon as we make a trigger for them to hit. So if we go ahead and create empty, and we zero that position out, yep, and it's right on the floor there, we can go ahead and call this trigger. And if we add a if we add a box collider component to it, and we edit that component so we can see it, and we just scale that up on the x-axis to be, let's just go ahead and say 100, and we put 100 in on the z-axis, it's created this trigger, or it's created this collider on the floor. But if we were to play, we would just see these barrels colliding with it, and we don't want that. We want them to activate the trigger, so we have to press this is trigger checkmark here, see? And that will remove collisions, but it'll trigger those on trigger methods. So now, if we go into Unity and hit play, I'm just going to go ahead and unmaximize it so we can see the console, and if we knock over some barrels, we'll see that it's debugging the score, just like that. Awesome. So now we have a game where we can knock over barrels and keep track of the score. That's pretty cool. So if we want to display the score on screen, we will have to use some UI. And the Unity UI is a little bit tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually kind of fun. I like it. That's kind of an unpopular opinion. Now, to create UI, you have to have something called a canvas. So to do that, just go ahead and create a UI canvas. And you'll not see anything pop up at first. And that's just because it's created this big, huge, enormous thing. And if you go ahead and hit this button that says Gizmos, it'll let you see it a little bit better. It'll give you that outline. And so the way to work with these is to hit 2D and then press F to zoom in on it. and it'll give you this big, huge canvas that's like a painter's canvas. So this is where we'll put all of our UI, and this just scales with our screen, and like it overlays onto our screen, and it will see it all in the spots on our screen where the UI is at. Now, to make this work a little bit better, we have to change a few settings. So if we have our canvas selected, we can come over to screen space overlay, and that's good, we want that checked. But we want on our canvas scaler, we want to change this to be scale with screen size, and let's just go ahead and just set this to 0.5 so that it scales with the width and the height. And we also want the reference resolution to be 2560 by 1440, a nice 16 to 9 aspect ratio there. Now this could be 1920 by 1080 as well, but I like this because it gives us a bit more resolution to work with. So if we want to have a text object to display our score, we can go right click on our canvas and we can create a UI text. And we can just go ahead and call this score text. Awesome. So if we can see here that it created a little text object down there, but that's a bit too small for my liking. So if we go ahead and align it in the middle and the left there, and we change this font size to be like 100, we'll see that it goes away and we can't see it here, but that's because the text box is too small. So if we hold Control Shift and scale this text box, we'll see that the size of it stays the same instead of it changing like that, which is right, so we want that aspect ratio to stay the same. And we can now drag it up to be in the top left, something like this. There we go. So that we have a good place for our score to be. And we can also change the new text to be score, just like this. And this is just a placeholder. We'll change this in the script. So now that we do have that, let's go back into our score manager. And since we want to be working with UI, let's create a new namespace. Let's say using Unity Engine.ui. Awesome. So now that we have all the namespaces for our UI, so now that it knows that we want to be working with things like text, we can say public text, and let's just call it score text. So we're creating a new variable of type text, and we're calling it score text. Awesome. So on our onTrigger enter, we can just say our score text dot text, because we're working with the text component on it, is equal to, and we need a string because it's text, so we can type in two quotation marks, and we can say score with a colon and a space, and then we can say plus our score. So what this will do is this will say our score, and then it'll add to the end of that string whatever our score is. Awesome. And if we want to kind of initialize it, we can just put it in the start too, and so then it'll say 0 when we start the game. So now if we come back in here, and we go 2D and we zoom back in on our cannon holders, we can go to our barrels, and we can drag in our score text here. Now if we hit override and apply all, we'll see that it's not applying it to all of these, and it's because we're getting a reference to a game object that's not like a prefab or something, and so it's not going to be the same for all of them. So a quick way to do this is just highlight all of them and then drag in the score text like that. So now if we hit play, first of all we'll see that our score is in the right spot because we're scaling with screen size. And second of all, we'll see that it's initialized, and third, well, when we knock over barrels, we'll see it goes up. Just like that. Awesome. So I think that's going to be the end of today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to tune in for the next one. You guys have a great day.